Hi, good morning, guys. Welcome to my short discussion about improving systems in, sorry, how to improve computer systems. Actually, I have a few tips in improving system performance in Windows 10. As most cyberbackers, we are using Windows 10 nowadays, and a common issue for us is we have lagging systems or slow systems because most of us started also with cyberbacker, on the marginal setup like affordable systems. So these are a few tips to start off. So everybody's familiar with this. Actually, this is the requirement screen when you're about to apply for cyberbacker, and these are the minimum requirements actually. So you can see there our system requirement, that's CPU, processor, dual core, 1 gig Intel i3, i5, i7 or AMD equivalent, and your RAM should be at least 4 GB for the minimum, and with at least 60 GB of free hard disk space. Actually, for the hard disk space, I noticed that not much that is required because most of our files are being managed online, and our CRMs are also online. So the database is located in an online setting. So 60 GB is not really that much, it doesn't consume 60 GB. For the internet, that's 5 Mbps and a wired DSL internet connection. So wireless connections are not allowed. And this is self-explanatory actually. We want to guarantee fast connection because most of us handle soft phones, CRMs, which are memory intensive and also bandwidth intensive. To continue with, you see on the left side, that's the minimum system requirements that I mentioned a while ago, and on the right side of the screen, those are the recommended. Now these are based on experience. I've been working with my client for almost a year now, and I do notice that I started also with an i3 system, 4 GB RAM and 5 Mbps connection, and that's Ethernet. Now I'm using Command as my CRM, and I'm using also RingCentral as my soft phone. Now they also told me, our fellow CPs, that RingCentral had the word of caution that once the phone rings, the other windows or the other tools will lag. So I experienced the same, although it works for me, that old setup, but switching from one task to another and one application or one window from another with an i3 4 GB RAM is quite challenging because there's a lag, and when you answer the phone, it's hard to work while answering the phone, talking to them, and researching windows, switching to command or stuff like that. So yeah, the minimum requirement does work, but you'll be having some challenges or difficulties in performing your task. So that's the recommended based on my experience. Though that's an Intel Core i5 or even better, AMD Ryzen. The equivalent of Intel Core i5 would be an AMD Ryzen. So Intel and AMD are just companies, but the processors, they're named differently. Like for Intel, we're common for Core i5, and the equivalent for that is Ryzen 5. If you're familiar with AMD systems. Now, 8 GB RAM is highly recommended because most of us use CRMs, and we open multiple pages during our shift. So in my case, I open at least 12 browsing windows. Plus, I have WhatsApp as our communication with the client. Plus, I have RingCentral. So you would imagine all the apps that are being loaded while I was at work. Okay, and there are times you need to open web pages to research. Okay, and for KW command, so from my experience for command, I recommend at least you have at least 10 Mbps via an Ethernet or a hardware connection, because if you have 5, you'll have difficulty in browsing through the database. Most of the time in command, you're using postcards, landing pages, and those stuff won't load accurately, or you will have many challenges if you're just having a 5 Mbps connection. So these are the recommended tips to enable to run your system, like to improve the performance. First is to disable the startup apps Now, we do notice that if you buy a new computer, there are many apps that are being loaded automatically, and however, not all of those apps are really, needed. I do recommend that you have to access a special menu here, like you can click settings and then go for apps, and then you go to startup. So once you go to that menu, you can click sort by the menu and select the impact option. So priority is to select the high impact, and as much as possible, if those stuff aren't really recommended, like example in this illustration, that's Microsoft Team, that's being turned off because it's a high impact application. So in your computers, you will notice that these are differently displayed. There are different apps, but most of them in a practical sense are not really needed. So it is better to disable the startup apps so that yeah, correct, it's another is task manager. It's a startup tab also. Thank you so much for that. So you also have the option to browse whatever programs are running through this start manager. Okay, to continue with, another tip is to disable the relaunch apps on startup. Now, Windows 10 has the capacity, like if you shut down or reboot Windows and the Windows, all of your apps are still open, the programs, example, you're too tired to close them one by one at the end of the shift, and you just shut down your computer or restart. The tendency is once you relaunch or reboot the system, all those apps will automatically load back. Now, on a very powerful system, you don't have any issues because this will just load back in a few seconds. But if you have a marginal system or a low-end system, that would be, I would say, to a disadvantage, because all those apps are being loaded again if you don't need them actually. So the thing is, you have to go to settings, click on sign in options, and under the privacy section, you may use this tool, use my sign in info, to automatically finish setting up you can turn this off actually. So upon system restart, you will have a fresh restart. So like it's just a clean restart, even if you didn't shut off all those apps. So to continue with, to disable the background apps. Now, most of us were working on the foreground will load a lot of applications. What we don't know that Windows 10 also secretly loads these background apps during during at work. So you can also access this through the task manager actually. But a good way of turning this off is to open the settings, click on privacy, and then proceed to background apps. See in the illustration, you see a list there of background apps that you don't really need while doing at work, like alarm and clock, calculator, camera, connect, feedback hub. So you don't actually need this while working. You just have to turn them on or activate them each at a time in case you need them, because these apps also, consume RAM. So if you have lesser RAM, you have difficulty in switching from one task to another. And another tip is to uninstall non-essential apps. Now, if you just purchase a new system, lots of bloatware will be there, or so just to save hard space, you can uninstall these apps. So another option to do that, go to settings, click on apps, and then click on features. Now, once you go to features, you have to select the app, which app you want to remove. So specifically, click that app, then click uninstall. Just a caution word though, if you don't have the installer for that app and you uninstalled, so there is no way to reinstall that unless you have the installer again. Now, if you have a system like you bought a new computer and the preloaded apps are there, programs are there, and just by any case you hit a virus or a virus infects your computer, and you have no choice but to get a fresh system, those preloaded apps, once you bought their computer, will be back again. Okay, so just in case the whole worst case scenario, you lose all your files, and the technician says, oh, we gotta have a clean restart. So all those preloaded apps will still come back because those are factory loaded apps. Another way of speeding up performance is to reclaim hard disk space. Now, whether it's SSD or HDD, so SSD stands for solid state drives. These are, a minimum small drives, look like a microchips. Traditional hard drives are bigger, and they have rotating spindle on this disk. Now, if you compare performance to SSD and HDD, of course, HDDs are cheaper. They have the capacity to store more, but the disadvantage is, they load applications slowly. So for SSD, it will be very fast. So just in case your operating system resides in an SSD, it will be a big advantage compared to an HDD. So back in my experience before, when I was using an i3 system, my computer boots like I would say a minute before the Windows finally starts up in that computer. That's an i3, and it has an HDD. Now, what I'm using now is an i7. It has the operating system is located inside an SSD. So, like, Windows starts up in about 6 to 8 seconds. That fast. So if your operating system resides in an SSD, that would be an advantage. So it's also a big advantage for us. Just, you're about to resume a task or you have no choice but to restart. It will be a big advantage if you have an SSD. Like if you can't afford a big SSD, a big SSD space like 256 will do, just to, operating system just enough to fit for that one. So to clean up the storage space, I also observed that if your storage space reaches up to 70% or even more, you will experience a lag or a delay in processing files because the hard drive is about to fill up. So you have to go to settings and then click on system and click on storage. So on storage, you will see a menu here, and you got to go to the temporary files. Now, once you go to temporary files, these are, set by the system. Like, they do have temporary thumbnails. When you're surfing the web, they have, they load temporary files in your hard drive. And if you exit the web, it still remains there. So it packs as time goes by. These temporary files will accumulate. So don't be surprised, like in a month, if you're surfing heavily on the internet, this temporary files almost reaches 1 GB of your drive. So you would imagine you have to clean that space. Or people sometimes have special software like CC Cleaner. It's very common. You just start CC Cleaner and automatically CC Cleaners cleans up the memory and these files. So it helps a lot. Another tip is to run a defrag tool or defragmentation tool. So this wouldn't apply if we're using an SSD though, because SSDs can't be defragmented. This is only applicable for hard disk drives. And this also, you have to run a defrag like if you're doing a major installation, like a heavy installation. It installs like 1 GB or more, and then later on you have to uninstall, something like that. So you have to run a defrag tool over time just to speed up the system. Okay, to access that one, you have to go to settings and then click on system and then follow storage, and then you will see here the option like more storage settings. You have to click that optimize drive option. So in that option, you will see after that optimize runs, you can see my mouse here, it's hovered on that specific. It will say that your disk is fragmented or not. So like most of the time, Windows will automatically run the defrag if it run like the defrag is about 25%, it will start to run, this defrag tool. So I've never observed nowadays that I'm running the defrag tool, but back in the old days, when we were using Windows Windows 3.2 or the old version, we used to defrag like every month, because this is required to make the system run smoothly. And another also tip is, if you have a malware or virus, definitely this thing will slow down your performance. Okay, so there are times that when you notice that something is not off with your computer, so you try to detect if there's a virus or malware present. Now, once we purchase new computers nowadays, they have a built-in antivirus that we call it Windows Defender. So it is present on every computer once you purchase it. So actually, it has the ability to protect itself. Okay, but some people buy another antivirus aside from the Windows Defender for redundancy. So in my case, I do have Windows Defender, and I also have Kaspersky Internet antivirus, which is very fast. And also I also use a VPN, okay, just to be sure, because we're online, so just to protect our ISP or addresses. So I have a double redundancy just to protect my system. So you would say that why you spend money for antivirus, but if you see the investment, you have a computer which is like, in my case, a quite expensive system, like 60 to 80,000. Now, how much is the antivirus? Just 1,000 pesos. So if your computer is infected by the virus, you can't afford to lose your files, right? You just save 1,000 and you compare the price of your PC. So to access the Windows Defender or this innate operating system, you just have to go to Start, then go to Windows Security, and click on Virus and Threat Protection. So just access them, and then this one, and then you will be able to access the Windows Defender. So another tip is to install the latest upgrade. Now, as we notice, Windows 10 is always updating, same as our mobile phones, Android, iOS. At certain points, they do have major upgrades, like in a few months, every 2 or 3 months. So these are important critical upgrades that our system has to catch up. Now, I do notice that if you're on the low-end system, like an i3 or just the equivalent, a Windows upgrade will take sometimes like 30 minutes. So I would advise that you do the upgrade off shift, so that you're not caught unaware. You're doing during your shift, you're doing an upgrade, and most of the time, like 99%, you do have to have a major restart after that upgrade. So to access that, if you just to check if your system is up to date or not, to go to Settings and click on Update and Security, and then proceed to clicking on Windows Update. Now for that, you have to click on the Check for Upgrades button at this part here. Once you click that, it will take some time, like a few minutes, before you know that you're up to date or an upgrade is available. You need to install. Okay. Another option here is to change your power plan. Now, when you buy computer systems, there are 3 power plans that are available, like Balance, Power Saver, High Performance. Now, most of the time, in my case, most of our case, you can just go for the balanced power plan. That'll do. It can run your CRMs. You can run your programs in a balanced power setting. But if you're playing intensive games, like heavy games, online games, like example Call of Duty, something like that, high intense graphic games, you have to select the high performance option if you're running games. Okay, but at work, the balance option would do. Now, the advantage of having a power plan in the new system is, just in case you're in a balanced power plan, and then you have a power outage. So the backup is your battery first and foremost. Okay, if you do have a generator or not. So at that time, when Windows switches to battery power, you will notice a certain slowdown or drag in performance. Now, if you want trying to consume your battery waiting for the power to get back, you can switch that to power saver. Okay, so that's the lowest setting, and it will extend your battery life. Hopefully, that power comes back again. So to access this, you have to open Control Panel, click Hardware and Sound, and then under that you will see Power Options. So once you open Power Options, those three options are available, so you can choose them. But I do recommend that you just choose Balance. Okay. So thank you for attending my discussion. Hopefully on the next one, I'll be looking for more, computer related stuff to, help you guys out. Thank you so much. Good morning. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.